So this is term 3, swap shop. So lesson 1 was on respiration. All we need to know at this stage is respiration is when we release energy. It's the breakdown of glucose. How do our bodies do that? Well, we call it aerobic respiration when we've got oxygen. Got glucose, which is known as sugar, plus oxygen is going to give us that arrow, carbon dioxide, we breathe out, plus water. Sometimes when we're running and we don't get enough oxygen, we call it anaerobic respiration, which is where we just use glucose and that turns into lactic acid. Really important to remember. Lesson 2 was the respiratory system. We got 8 parts. First of all, we need to know about the mouth and the nasal cavity where the air goes in. Then we've got the windpipe. Science name is trachea. And then it splits off into 2 lungs. We call this split the bronchus, which is number 3. Number 4, we need to know about the ribs. And number 5, between the ribs, is the intercostal muscles. Number 6, going back to the bronchus then, it's going to split off again into these thinner parts, which is called the bronchioles. And then at the end of these, we've got the alveoli. That's where the gas exchange happens. Number 8 then, we've got this diaphragm at the bottom. And then in year 8, you're going to learn about how this expands and this pushes down to pull in air. Lesson 3 was on diffusion. We need to know the definition. It's the movement of particles from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. And if we remember in that at this stage, we are awesome. Lesson 4 is the periodic table. It's an introduction. So we need to know that the reactive metals are on the left-hand side. And we've got the non-metals on the right-hand side. Column 8 is called the noble gases because these are the gases that don't react with anything. The most reactive metals are in group 1, we call them the alkali metals. And we call group 7 the halogens, and often you'll see 1 with 7. But again, we're going to look at that in year 8. In the middle, we got the transition metals. We also need to know that groups go down. So group 1 and 2, any element in this group is going to be in group 1. Same applies to group 8 and group 7. Whereas a period goes across. So any element in this row, we're going to call period 1. Lesson 5 is on rates of reaction. And what we need to know in year 7, they're affected by 4 things. Temperature, surface area, concentration, and we can also add a catalyst. Okay, if we increase the temp, we're going to speed up the reaction. If we increase the area, we're going to speed up the reaction. If we're going to increase the concentration, we're going to speed up the reaction. And if we add a catalyst, we're going to speed up the reaction. And the good thing about catalyst, it doesn't get used up. So it can be used over and over. Lesson 6 and 7 then is all about voltage and current. These are the symbols you have to remember. A normal bulb or a filament lamp as we call it. We've got an ammeter which measures current, and the unit for current is amps. We've got a voltmeter, symbol looks like that, capital V. Measures the voltage in volts. The other thing we need to know is the cell, or many cells make a battery. And that's going to give the circuit the power. We need to know about conventional current then. It's going to go from positive to negative, so it's going to go this way. But then we've got electron flow usually goes from negative to positive. And that's what we need to know about that. And then the last lesson was on resistance. Calculating resistance, we need to know voltage and current if we're going to calculate resistance. And if we're going to calculate resistance, we need to cover R, and it's going to be V divided by I. So V over I. And when I rearrange the equation for all of these, we get these equations. So there's the three equations. So if I want voltage, it's going to be current times resistance. If I want current, it's going to be voltage over resistance, or divided by resistance. And then, as we just talked about, resistance equals voltage over current. And that's term 3, swap shop.